What up, everybody? Thanks for checking out my channel. Um, it's kind of weird the way this channel was started. It was started because I actually started a Pokemon ripping channel, like where I was opening up Pokemon cards, and a lot of my students they were watching and they're like, your art's amazing, and you love talking about life, and you just kick so much knowledge on us. Like, you should actually start a YouTube channel. Talking about your life, talking about just the things that happened, the stories, all the hardships. And they're like, people can learn from that. And they're right, and I'm a firm believer as a man of color that we should be sharing our stories with each other so the younger generation can grow. And I'll be real with you guys, I am not getting any younger. If on the contrary, I'm actually getting older. So this channel was pretty much designed to kind of do art, but also talk about life and all the hardships in life going on right now. And so hopefully, you're into that stuff, because I think as a man of color, like, I've grown up in bad areas. I've learned a lot, grew a lot, and there's so many stories I have that I think you can learn from the mistakes I made. For me being born into a low socioeconomic community, gang-ridden community, to going to prison, but at the end of the day, to also being successful, right? Like, how did I make it from, as some would say, rock bottom, to making it? Oh man, I'm already getting black on here. To also to being able to move beyond that and still get a good job. And so, yeah, I want this channel. I guess my goal is not to give you guys life advice. It's just to kick some knowledge and for y'all to make those decisions on how you want to live your life. And that's why I call it the Socratic life. Because at the end of the day, like, we have to ask questions. We have to grow as individuals. Because if we don't, what's going to end up happening is that we are going to stay children forever. And yes, just because you're 18 doesn't mean you're an adult. I'm sorry to say that, and I know that's going to hurt some of y'all feelings. But some of y'all have not grown beyond that. You're like, oh, I'm 18 and I should be able to, I'm an adult. But you're not. Being an adult, there's a lot of things that are, go into that. Like that maturity portion. And like, ooh, yeah, I play video games and I collect Pokemon cards, I open them. But at the end of the day, I'm a mature ass man. And what makes me mature is that when somebody gives me feedback, I can take it. And I don't get all hurt about it. I don't start crying about it because somebody hurt my feelings. That's part of it, right? That's one layer of having maturity. And trust me, as an educator, I work on that with my students to make sure that they're able to grow as individuals and that they can take feedback, that they can take criticism. Because the reality is the world is gonna criticize, there's gonna be haters, and that doesn't mean that you have to cry every time they say something to you. Like, for me, it's like, I'll be real with you, like, a big part of it is, this I don't give a, fuck attitude. You have to give a fuck to some degree. And so for me, when somebody tells me something like along the lines of, like, oh, they'll be like, oh, you're an asshole. All right, I'll take that into account, and then I'll ask myself the question, where is this coming from? Is it coming from a good place? Is the person a hater? Because reality, some people just don't like you, and you're always going to be an asshole in their eyes, right? So where is this coming from? Who is it coming from? Do I trust them? And I really look at it from an analytical perspective to determine, am I going to actually care? Because the reality is, I don't have time to care for everything. Not everybody's going to like me, and that's okay. And if I look at it and they're like, he's an asshole, and in that moment maybe I was an asshole, right? I'll take it into account, and if I feel like I need to make a change, I will. And if I was, a jerk about something, I'll change that. I'll apologize like an adult. I'll be like, hey, I apologize for being a jerk to you, and I'm gonna do my best to not do that again. I'm sorry. You know, and that's another part of being mature, is being able to apologize when you mess up. Because I talk a lot to people about that, because most people are still apologize like children. I'm sorry. I'm like, what are you sorry for? They think, oh, you should stop talking about it. I'm like, no, what are you sorry for? Explain it. Break it down to me. How are you going to grow from it? And so for me, I'll apologize to someone like, hey, I messed up. I should have not behaved that way. I came off as an asshole. I know that wasn't my intention, but I want to apologize to you and let you know that I'm going to work at not doing that again to you. Boom, done. Moving on, right? And that's why I don't have a lot of beef with people, like adults, because I own my mistakes, and I make the changes that I need to make. Because if you can't do that, I would let you know right now that you're not as mature as you think you are. If you cannot apologize and make the changes you need to make, you need to reassess your maturity, that emotional maturity, because the world doesn't revolve around you. No matter how much you think it does, you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to make mistakes. And part of being a mature adult, a leader, is being able to check oneself in and say, yep, I made a mistake here, and I'm going to take accountability. But, it's not your fault. I'll say that, and some people are going to they're going to get triggered by that. It's not your fault. You probably weren't taught how to truly be accountable. Schools don't teach it anymore. Like if you came from my era, yeah, they taught us a bit about accountability, but they expected it to be something we learned at home. And a lot of our parents, they didn't know, right? I got lucky that my stepdad, the guy who I call my father, was able to instill somewhat of it on me about taking ownership. Like if you mess up, then you fix it. And if you can't fix it, you ask for help to fix it. You kind of suck up that pride. And I come from a Latino family. Like I'm a mixed race person. And that machismo-ness is all there. But taking accountability is important. It's important to show your maturity. And, because I know there's a lot of people that struggle with accountability. Hot take. Y'all may not like this again. I'm going to drop some truth bombs on y'all here. Or some things I've noticed anecdotally is that men are typically better at holding themselves accountable for their mistakes. Not saying all men. I'm not going to generalize that all women are bad at this. Some women are really good at it. But what I've noticed through my life as a teacher, females typically have a harder time with accountability. I can give you an example. I had a student last year, a male student, who's having a conversation with a girl, and he would not give in to what she wanted. And we started talking about it, and I was trying to hold her accountable. She literally started kicking the boy versus taking ownership of it and holding herself accountable. Like clearly she was in the wrong. But why is that? Why do males typically have a little bit easier time with accountability? And the answer is a little bit more straightforward for people my age, typically getting closer to their 40s, maybe even older, because society has always held men at a little higher standard when it comes to accountability. So, for example, I made a mistake when I was a kid. Guess what happened? I got my ass whooped. You know, it was no if buts about it. Even in elementary school, I got out of line. The male teacher grabbed me up. I'm like, no, we ain't doing that. And so as boys, we're always, you know, told to have, be held into a different standard. Or girls are just like, oh, you made a mistake. People feel bad and they pity, like, oh no, I'm sorry you had to go through that. And so I see it still happen, but depends where you're at. Like if you're in like, I'm just gonna say it, a little bit more of a liberal town, progressive town. The males kind of suck at that too a little bit, but they all improve, they get better. It's just that you got to get them early and about holding each other held accountable. Because I'm gonna be real with you, man. I think this is what the younger generation is missing. They're missing that leadership, that accountability, that ability to take ownership. And it's going to kick them in the ass later on. I see it right now as a teacher. Kids, they don't think it's their fault when they don't turn their homework assignment in. I'm like, bro, that was your fault. You had how many hours inside the classroom to do it? You chose not to do it. But instead of taking accountability, they kind of get told, well, I can make it up, can't I? I can make it up to the end of the year. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't care if my principal says you can. No. I will talk to your parent and we're going to have that conversation. But guess what? I don't let it get to that point. Because at the end of the day, I reach out to the parents and I talk with them and I set my, those standards, that expectations. Because that's what a good leader does. We set standards, expectations for people to help people develop as human beings. But again, this channel, yeah, you might say it's about yapping, kind of bestowing some type of knowledge. And I don't think I'm special in any regards. Okay, I'm lying. No bullshit. I am a little special. Just throwing it out there. Just a little bit. But I'm able to check my ego in a little bit and could be difficult sometimes, but we all have to do it. But I want to share these perspectives of life that I've seen, and going and living in different types of life, comparatively for what I'm living now, I'm doing well off, to be honest, you guys. Through a lot of hard work and being able to push forward in life. And you'll hear some stories I have later on about the hardships in life that I've had to go through, and you're going to probably be shocked, like, how the hell did this guy even become a teacher? How did he even become an assistant principal? How did he even do that? Why is he even still alive, type stuff. And so, I'm a big advocate of, again, sharing life, and because if I can't do that, how can I ever expect people to do it too? As a teacher, I always tell my students, I will never ask you to do something I'm not willing to do myself. And you'll see how fast students change when they know that you're willing to do it. That you're not trying to just set them up, some BS. And I'll be, not to toot my own horn or anything here, I am a pretty successful teacher. I am a distinguished teacher. And is teaching my passion? No. But what my passion is helping people build their life. Like, for example, I don't call myself really a teacher. That's my title, but in my head, I'm a human engineer. My goal is to help people build themselves into the best version of who they want to be. And so, kind of just chiming back on that accountability, you have to be able to hold yourself accountable, because if you can't hold yourself accountable, somebody else will do it eventually. And I think our young people, they have a hard time recognizing that. That if you mess up, somebody will hold you accountable. And sometimes that's teachers, sometimes that's administration, sometimes that's the law. And it's going to happen. And trust me, I needed to be held accountable for my mistakes, and I got locked up. I got, went to jail, then went to prison. at the end of the day, like, somebody had to stop me from being a menace, right? Because, yeah, I was out there doing too much crazy stuff. But yeah, like, if you ever have any, like, thoughts, put them down in the comments, man. You know, like, I love having conversations. If you have any video ideas, like, I'm willing to make a whole video on it, just talk about just random stuff in life, and yeah. But today, I'm not going to say where I'm working. I have a privilege to work for a summer program, and I'm teaching a course, and the course is about pretty much about being able to thrive in college, in society, in life. It's only 7 days, so I'm like, man, I gotta pack probably something I can do over the whole year, multiple years, and jam pack it in 7 days. And so I'm gonna be having a blast doing that for the next 6 more days, and it should be pretty dope. The kids are great so far, and you know, they're respectful kids, and you know, they come from areas the areas I grew up in. They come from, you know, low socioeconomic areas, gang-ridden areas. Some come from well-off areas too that are in this group, and so hopefully it can kind of flourish into some great conversations, because that's the only way as humans that we will grow, is if we talk. Because you look what's going on here in America nowadays, and people ain't talking, man. People just criticizing, talking, you know, shit about each other. And I'm gonna be real with you, that's not working, you know. And then you ask yourself, man, why don't people want to take accountability for voting somebody in, whether it's a Republican or a Democrat? People just rather shirk the responsibility of saying, man, I fucked up. I messed up and I voted for this dipshit. I should have not done that. You know, so we have to be able to communicate with each other and ask each other, like, man, how do we change that? How do we hold our politicians accountable? Because you voted for this person for a reason and you didn't get it. You know, and on the opposite side, they did the same thing and they didn't get it. Like, how do you defeat this game? And, you know, there's that conversation about accountability. You know, everybody else wants other people to be accountable, but they don't want to be accountable themselves. And so part of that is leading by example and holding yourself accountable. And so I'm trying to teach that to kids. I try to teach that to the young people, my nieces, my nephews. But, you know, it's hard. There's a society that we live in that doesn't want to hold people accountable anymore. And I'm not one of those older guys that were like, man, everything has to be law and order. That's not me. I'm more of like, hey, we don't need to arrest everybody for everything, but we also do need to arrest people when they do mess up pretty bad, right? When they're taking away other people's freedoms. Like, I'm sorry, you know, there's you can make excuses all you want, but if you murder somebody, you're going to prison. But more, I'm not like, hey, before we get to that point, how do we create a society where people don't feel like they need to break the law, like they need to go shoplifting and stuff like that, that they have opportunities to actually be successful in this society. And so I think there's a big issue going on with that right now, is that we do live in a very unequitable, unequal society, and that nobody wants to talk about it. Instead, we give tax breaks to the wrong people, and then essentially other people have to pay that, or we lose certain, like, you know, things like, you know, cutting welfare, whatever it may be. And so there's a lot of things that we as a society have to think about. But I'll be real with you, it always goes back to, like, how do we hold people accountable? How do we do that? It's funny, like, I asked myself, man, how hard was this be? Because my students, we were talking about it, and because I talked about grandpa vlogging. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to sit in front of a camera and just yap, you know, just shoot my mouth off. And they're like, dude, that's a great idea. But they're like, add art, like where you're just working on your art because they want to see me do art too. Um, but yeah, I think it was a cool idea, and I'm really enjoying it. But everybody's like, is it going to be hard? You're essentially talking to yourself. Nobody's around you, and I'm like, bro, I talk to myself all the time. I think people forget that there's people that talk to themselves. They clearly have mental health issues, but then there's other people that are very intelligent, that they will talk out loud. Like I talk out loud all the time, not like in public or anything. I'm not weird, but like right now, like I'm fine. And also I did what's that called, virtual teaching. It ain't like nobody listened to me anyway, right? During virtual teaching, hot psych. The kids were paying attention because I actually was smart enough to change my class into a podcast type format. Kids love that stuff. To them, it was pretty cool. But yeah, kind of like letting you know what I'm doing is obviously my name is on YouTube is Socratic Life, and if you want to check out my Pokemon channel is Socratic Rips, Socratic Rips, and yeah, it's kind of sprouted from like a graffiti name, like Soaker, Sock, whatever you want to call it, and from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. I don't know if y'all remember, if y'all old enough to know that movie where they time travel through like a phone booth. Well, Bill and Ted, they go back in time to pick up like historical figures, and one of the guys they go pick up is Socrates, but these guys are so dumb they call him Socrates, and so I kind of ended up picking my art name based off that, like SokratesOne, and so it kind of fits. So like just I broke it down into the 3 short letters, SOK, and I did this bubble here that says "Let's Rip," and so I'm gonna essentially make this for my other YouTube / TikTok channel, and yeah, what I'm gonna do is because I open cards, like rip cards open, and then I'm gonna take Pokemon cards, not the valuable ones. I'm not crazy, like the base card ones, and I'm just gonna put them all through here, kind of make a design and take some spray paint, kind of add a little extra like pop to it. So yeah, I mean that's kind of it, and I really like art. Art's very therapeutic to me. And I'll be real with you, graffiti wise, like I love graffiti, and I grew up doing graffiti and stuff like that. So, was it always therapeutic? The answer is no. Some of y'all, y'all write, y'all graffiti artists, and I know that world is very arrogant, and we will talk about that later. And just like I mentioned to somebody recently, I'm doing this, and I know there's a part of me, there's that part inside of me that's gonna get a little bit like competitive, a little bit. I'm gonna have to manage that beast, that ego in me, because I love graffiti. Graffiti pulls something out of me. I want to be the best at it. I want to get up as much as I can get up in whatever city I'm in. Like, I want you to see my name and be like, damn, how did that motherfucker get there? Damn, that dude's everywhere. That's that competitive part of me. But I'll be real with you, man. I haven't done graffiti illegally in like a long time. As I got older, after getting locked up for it and stuff like that, you learn that like, these motherfuckers want to throw me away for a long time. Like, you can go back and I've made my life in such a good way. I make an impact, and one slip up, I lose my job easily. I lose being a teacher. I lose the impact I have on students. Shit, my wife probably leave me. I have an awesome wife. She does have standards and stuff like that. Nah, I don't think she'll leave me, to be honest with you. I think she loves me too much. But it would really hurt her, because we could lose a lot, and then there's this level of respect that I have for her, for myself, even for my family, the people who helped me kind of get back on my feet. But I will definitely go more in depth about that later in a different episode. But let me know if y'all want to hear about that. more about my graffiti life. If you want to hear more about prison life, because graffiti life is very interesting, like how you start out and to how it ends. Because you can go out with a bang, which I have a lot of examples of people doing that, and by bang I mean dead. You can be a rock star for like a few weeks, like people are like, damn, this person's up, then all of a sudden you done. You know, the wrong people meet the wrong people at the wrong time. Got a lot of stories about that too. But yeah. So let me know if y'all want me to talk about. Ew, that looks like shit. Sorry. Let me know if y'all want me to talk about like the life of being a graffiti artist. And it's a little different, I'll be real with you guys. There's a lot of essence that is the same within the graffiti world. Even like back all the way to the 80s, to the 90s, early 2000s. Things really don't change much. I think for me what's changed a lot, like looking at it from the outside now, is there's a lot more cameras out there. Sheesh. And I'll be real with you, man. I still can do it. I was talking to somebody the other day and I was like, man, if I wanted, I would be the most up person in this city within a week. And they're like, why? I'm like, because I hold myself accountable to, like, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to go do it first and foremost. And secondly, I have this weird obsessive personality. Is like when I need to accomplish something, that mission is calling me, it is always in the back of my head. I'm studying about it, learning about it, pushing myself, practicing. Like when I was younger, I would literally sit on the couch with a dinner table, whatever those TV dinner table type things, and I'd have my sketchbook there. I'll pop in some anime, watch anime, and just sketch away for like 8-10 hours. But that's how you do it. If you want to get good, you have to push yourself. And I'll be real with you. I am not talented at graffiti. I'm not talented at art. If you ask me about techniques, I'm like, shit, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. But I am skilled. Through a lot of time, practice, effort, I've developed a lot of skills. Now, if you ask me to go bust something out really quick, like on paper, I'm like, no, I take my time. I plan it out. And so if I ever want to go do a mural or something, a piece, I have it in my head, then I can go do it. But I don't know. That's just not who I am. Like, and trust me, I've met some awesome, talented writers, that will just stylistically will fuck me up. And you know what I do? I observe, I watch them, and I improve. So, I don't know, man. Art's awesome. Do y'all think art's very therapeutic? I think it's therapeutic as hell. It's kind of funny now as my mom is getting older. She used to dog on me for like doing graffiti and stuff. But now I see her like, she colors in her coloring book and stuff like that. And like I told you, that shit was therapeutic. Just like even just coloring, like. And I don't think she believed me how therapeutic it was. So. But yeah, it'd be funny to see my mom go out and do some graffiti, right? Never gonna happen. I don't think she had ever really had the courage to do something like that. So, or you could say she's not as stupid as I was. Whatever. Thanks, Mom. No, that's another dynamic that I could talk about here. Is like, how does graffiti affect the people around you? Like your family. Because I know it really it kind of messed with them. Not the fact of me doing it per se, but more along the lines of me getting caught doing it. I think that was the hard thing for them to have to cope with. Is their son has gotten in trouble for this, and they want to throw him away in prison for how long? Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of conversation pieces. But just let me know, like, you know, what are some things that you want me to talk about, like, you know, and trust me, man, I can talk about a lot of things. That's one of the strong suits that I have, is that, you know, not to be an arrogant asshole, but I'm pretty intelligent, and so I like to read, talk about a bunch of stuff, listen to a lot of videos, and I'm gonna be real with you, I don't do a lot of reading. I read here and there. I don't read full books. If you want, I could teach you how to actually, you know, read what you need to read, so you can grow. Which, by the way, I've taught that to some of my students who really wanted to know, and yeah, they some rock stars now. But yeah, just let me know. You know, is there any topics you want me to talk about? And if any of my students are listening, yeah, I'll catch y'all in the fall. Y'all better be ready, because your boy's coming back to teach y'all some stuff, talk some mad shit to y'all. You know, show you my Pokemon cards, show you my new art, because yes, there's a lot of art. And yes, guys, my classroom is like an art gallery. Ask any of my students who know me, they're going to tell you, like, dude, Mr. G's classroom, it's awesome. It's like full of just graffiti art and just weird characters and stuff like that. So, yeah. So let me know, like, today my goal was just to kind of just finish, you know, blacking out the outline. And I know some people are going to be like, why would you do that? Shouldn't you paint there first? I'm going to be real with you. And I'm sure I can YouTube this, but I have not been able to figure out what's it called? The graphite, like the pencil. Because if I start painting, let's say I start using this pink. That pink in the lead or the graphite, whatever it is now, I don't think it's even lead anymore, it's graphite. It's going to bleed into this, and so it's going to look dirty. And so typically I rather just outline it, you know, with a black marker or whatever color I want to outline it with, and then just erase the extra graphite pencil markings. And yeah, to me it's easier because I can just go, if I go over it, and trust me, it will look sloppy. Like I have a painting over there that you can see the black outlining, but it's like there's stuff all over it. I'll just go over it again. I don't care. You know, for me, like I want the paint to look clean here, and part of that is, yeah, the pencil just makes it look dirty, and I don't like that. So that's just me. Everybody does it in their own different ways, and yeah. So as you saw, I do a lot of paint markers and acrylics and stuff like that. I think the bread and butter I have is where, you know, spray painting, but yeah, it's not that big. I'm a big graffiti like spray paint person, like. You know, I'm like 6'4" and, you know, tall as hell. And so, like, I try to make my letters bigger than me. And so, like, yeah, it's kind of hard to transition that way, but, you know, do what you got to do. But, yeah, let me know again if you have any questions or anything you want me to talk about. You know, I'm going to just keep pumping these out. And if anybody's listening, awesome. If you're not listening, guess what? Awesome. Because if you're not listening, you're probably doing something else in your life that you find enjoyment in, and you know what? Fuck it. Do you. If you're enjoying something, you're not hurting anybody, you're not taking away someone's rights, do you. So, yeah, with that said, the Socratic Life, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.